All right, shalom, 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 brothers and sisters. This is your brother priest Kazak Yah from Sons and Daughters of the Covenant of Yah. And there are three people on the screen here we're going to talk about. Monique Tucson or Deucin, I think it is, on the left. In the middle is Tytus Jones. And on the right is Kevin Briggins. And we're going to see what they had to say. The title of the video is Who Are the Black Hebrew Israelites?
How did you get started making YouTube content and apologetics? Actually, Vocab Malone wrote this book called Barack Obama versus the Black Hebrew Israelites.
So Barack Obama versus the Hebrew Israelites is her source for identifying who the Israelites are, and she says the black Hebrew Israelites. Okay. So when you say black Hebrew Israelites, it's a label that they put on there. It's a negative label to say, oh, you're not really legitimate. You embrace somebody else's, and she's going to talk about that in this video. So let's continue.
And he actually encouraged me. He's like, yo, you should start. And he actually encouraged me. He's like, yo, you should start a channel. I'm like, I don't know enough to start a channel, but that was the initial encouragement. So thank you, Vocab.
So what she just said was Vocab Malone was the one that encouraged her to start a channel. So Vocab had an agenda, okay? You want to attack people, you use the people that look like them to attack them. That's pretty crafty, isn't it? It's kind of like what Malcolm X said. There's the quote. Remember this quote. But whenever a black man stands up and says something that white people don't like, then the first thing that man does is run around to try and find somebody to say something to offset what has just been said.
Who are the Black Hebrew Israelites? It's actually pretty old. Well, it's not that old, but it's older than a lot of us probably think. I think it goes back maybe about 100 years.
This book is entitled Africa, being an accurate description of the regions of Egypt, Barbary, Libya, and Bilodogrid. Did I say that right? Bilodogrid. And this book was written by John Ogilvy. And John Ogilvy is quoted by many scholars, and he actually quotes from Leo Africanus, which we'll cover a little later on. And this book was published in Roman numeral MDCLXX. That is 1670, in the year 1670. Let's go into the book. Okay, on page 34 of the book, it says, Africa, many Jews also are scattered over this region, some natives boasting themselves of Abraham's seed. Now, let's just pause for a minute because he said some are natives. So how is it that you have people in Africa who are natives of Africa boasting themselves of Abraham's seed? Didn't say that these were people that immigrated into Africa, but he said they were natives of Africa who were boasting themselves of Abraham's seed, inhabiting both sides of the river Niger. Others are also strangers who fled thither or there, either from the desolation of Jerusalem by Vespasian, or from Yahudia, or Judea, as it says there, but it's Yahudia or Yahuda, wasted and depopulated by Romans, Persians, Saracens, and Christians. So notice these, you have two sets of people here. You have those who said they are natives who said they're Abraham's seeds, and others who are strangers from Asia, right? That would be what? Israel, right? Who fled there either from the desolation of Jerusalem by Vespasian or from Judea, wasted and depopulated by the Romans, Persians, Saracens, and Christians. So you have, interesting here in this book, you have three types of people who are in Africa who are in 1670. This writer says that they are boasting themselves of Abraham's seed. And you have those that came into Africa during Vespasian, and then you have others that came in during the Persians and the Saracens. So Persians predated the 70 AD. Okay, so you got Romans, which was around the 70 AD period. You got the Persians, which predates that, right, during the Persian Empire. Many Israelites immigrated there. And then you have also the Saracens, which are the Muslims, right? So that happened during around about 1000 AD, I believe. Now he's going to give you some dates and times so you can see exactly what happened. So let's continue. He says, or else such as came out of Europe, whence they were banished, right? Now, some would say, oh, see that? That proves that the Ashkenazi are included in that. No, it does not. It says that they were banished from Europe, okay? So Israelites went into Europe too as well, the original Israelites. It's not talking about the Ashkenazi, okay? But let's continue. Whence they were banished, it says, out of some parts of Italy in the year of 1342, out of Spain in the year of 1462. So we know about the Spanish Inquisition and the exporting of the Hebrews out of Spain and Portugal. And then it says out of the Low Countries in 1350, and out of France in 1403, and out of England in 1422. He says, these all differ in habit and are divided into several tribes, having no dominion, though both wealthy and numerous, but despised of all nations, and so abominated by the Turks that they are not admitted to be Mohammedans unless first baptized, and then no otherwise made use of than to receive their customs and gather in their taxes. How about that? This book is entitled Riddles of Prehistoric Times by James H. Anderson, right? Now, if you go to the next page, you'll see the author is James H. Anderson. It was published in 1911. This is more of a recent time. And I'm going to go into the book. On page 57, under the first paragraph, it says the Iberians in ancient times inhabited the western and southern part of Europe, the northern part of Africa. In fact, all parts reach from the Mediterranean Sea. So who are we talking about? We're talking about the Iberians, right? He says the Basques or Basques in Spain and France, he says the little dark Welshmen, the Scot and black Celts to the west of the Shannon River in Ireland, as well as the same kind of men in Brittany and Aquitaine in France, and Gunners of the Canary Islands and Berbers in Africa are all probably the remnants of the race, right? See that? So what are we talking about here, brother? The Europeans, he's saying here, the Iberians, They were called the Black or Basques or Basque in Spain and France. They were dark Welsh, the Scots, and black Celts. Just in case you're unclear, he says black Celts to the west of Shannon. And down here he says they are, the Berbers in Africa are probably the remnant of the race, right? Okay, I have another reference for you. And this reference is entitled African Presence in Early Europe, edited by Juan van Sertina. Okay? And we're going to go to page 194, I believe it is. Okay, right at the top of the page, right here, 194, it says, like Spain, Portugal experienced similar conditions as far as blacks and mulattoes were concerned. It was common practice among the Portuguese to free their blacks and mulattoes. Many gained high offices in the land. Men like Antonio Vera, Portugal's greatest orator, who lived from 1608 to 1697, and Jose Thomas de Souza Martins, Portugal's most honored physician and one of his leading medical writers, who died in 1897 at age 54. Racial intermixing was so common in Portugal that even the royal family showed positive mulatto strains. John IV was said to exhibit definite African characteristics, while John VI has been described by historians, including the Duchess de Abrantes, wife of Marshal. You note. French ambassador to Portugal during the 1820s, as having Negro hair, thick lips, an African nose, and mulatto covering. See the picture right there? And now we're going to go to page 225. So let's just kind of skip over a couple pages just so you can see some of the pictures here. So you can see some of the pictures here. Okay, that's 196. Jacobius. I can't see it. Then Capstein, I think. And then over here you got Alexander Dumas, right? So let's keep going. Okay. So this has a lot of great reference. There goes Queen Charlotte right there. How about that? Look at Queen Charlotte. Okay, let's continue. What page I said? 224. Let's see if I can move this over. That's Queen Marie Theresa. We all know that famous picture there, right? And some of these images are in J.A. Rogers' book, Sex and Race, and Nature Knows No Color Line. Let's go to page 2. I think I said 224. Okay, 225. It says both Gomez and Squire contend that this race has never been completely eradicated from the Isles. This contention is upheld by the Roman historian Pliny, who first saw the Britons. Who did he see? The Britons in the 2nd century AD. So when did he see the Britons? In the 2nd century AD, and described their complexions as Ethiopian, right? This description is further validated by Claudian, who described the victory of the Roman general Theodosius over the natives as he subdued his nimble blackamoors. I'm going to give you another one, and this is entitled The Cambrian. The Cambrian, published February 1892. This is on page 223. It says, these two, the big fair Welshman and the small dark Welshman, are special types of Welsh of the which I will speak. Now, watch what he says. We're going to scroll down on page 223. We're going to start in this paragraph here where it says the small dark race. This small dark race, as I pointed out to you, is to be found in certain mountainous and inaccessible regions in the West. We have them in certain parts of Wales. We have them in the Highlands. We have them in Ireland. They are isolated fragments of one people who were formerly homogeneous, right? So just in case you don't know what homogeneous means, let's look at Wikipedia. Homogeneous, consisting of parts that are the same, uniform in structure or composition. Okay, so now that we got that out the way, let's go back to the book. So he says that they are homogeneous, right? Supposing we turn our attention to the mainland of Europe, we find that at the very beginning of history, let me say that again. We find that at the very beginning of history, one more time, we find that at the very beginning of history, the small dark races inhabited the whole of the region of France, from the river of Loire as far east as the Cevennes, including all the area which is drained by the Garonne and its tributaries. We have most conclusive evidence that from the early records left behind by the Romans and Greeks, we know that the region was inhabited by a people known to who? Known to the Greeks and Romans under the name Iberians or Aquitanians. Practically, to all intents and purposes, one and the same set of similar dark folk. Well, let us turn to the area of Spain. These small dark people at the beginning of history were matters of the great part of Spain and Portugal. How about that? Now, I must show you this here, the source of some of the history. This is from my slide presentation, the Cambrian National Monthly, and this author by the name of William Boyd Dawkins, right? He lived from 1837 to 1929. He wrote, right? If you see on the side here, it says that let's read this right here. So it is hardly necessary to mention the researches of Mr. William Dawkins, who has shown that a strong strain of Iberian blood flows through our veins and that the British view as a whole are far from possessing a right to claim priority of race. For his own part, Professor Jones thinks it probable that there exists a large element of descendants of Ham in some parts of Wales, that is to say, in the Vale of Cynwyd, and that some of the monuments of Wales may be due to the working of the same spirit as the pyramids and other structures reared by the pharaohs, right? This Mavora Mahandi Philippi, this is one of the very few unknown historical figures. It says a beautiful early engraving of sub-Saharan king. So he was a sub-Saharan king, right? It was issued by Pierre Bertrand in the late 17th century and was originally included in a series of engravings of foreign monarchs, right? He was a monarch. The engraving is of Marvura Mahandi Philippi, who reigned as Minwen the king of Mutapa, from 1629 to 1652. He was converted to Christianity and put on the throne by Portuguese after the previous Menemutapa Yambu Cambaradze had laid a failed uprising against the colonists. The long French caption below the portrait gives a brief account of the size and wealth of his kingdom, which covered modern-day Rhodesia, Clara, Mozambique, and part of South Africa. It also records the year of his baptism in 1631.